So today William and I are driving an Audi S4, the new model S4 actually. And for a lot of people, they think that there hasn't been a lot of changes in this, because certainly from the outside, they look very similar. Very minor changes on the outside. Perhaps too minor. You know, you have to really be a car person to notice the difference between the last generation and this new generation. But on the inside, there are a lot of changes. Obviously, a lot of changes to the cabin, but also a lot of changes to the engine. It's a different engine and it's a different transmission, interestingly. No longer is the manual an option, which is a shame. And surprisingly, it has a ZF torque converter automatic now. Gone is the dual clutch automatic that you can still get in the A4. I think the thinking with the torque converter automatic is that it's more suitable to the American driving style, where you can get that torque multiplier when you take off, and it's more of a smoother transmission overall. However, you do lose a bit of performance with torque converter automatic. The other big change, of course, is under the hood. The engine is an all-new engine by Audi, 3-litre, turbocharged instead of supercharged this time. And it's got a little bit more torque and a little bit more horsepower. If I leave it in manual mode here and put my foot down, it just takes a little longer for that turbo to spool up than what I remember the supercharger did. And as for sound, I'm not convinced about the sound of this new car either. It sounds a little fake to me, but it's more that it sounds a little four-cylinder-ish. It's still got a nice sound, but I don't know. I'm going to put a camera on the back, see if I can record some of the sound from the back. Okay, so let's have a listen to this engine first of all. Yeah, it's certainly got nice pickup, and it does feel a little more torquey than the previous supercharged engine. But yeah, I don't know about the sound. The sound is very muted, even in dynamic mode. Even if I go into individual mode and change out the how it sounds and everything, in most noisy mode, it's very muted engine sound. So it's a little disappointing. Certainly the older engine sounded cooler, but you can't argue with the power. The power certainly feels nice. It's a nice delivery. Otherwise, it's a super smooth, super nice sports saloon. And Audi always have beautiful interiors, and this one is just another step up from the previous beautiful interiors they had. So, much like the BMW 340 Xi and the Mercedes C45, this starts at about the $50,000 range, and there's two trim packages. One's about $50,000, one's about $55,000. And Audi's terrible website makes it very difficult to understand what the differences between those two trim packages are. I believe the main differences are that you get the MMI package in the Prestige, the more expensive one, and you get a few extra options, like you get the extra thick glass, acoustic glass, but really there isn't a big difference between the Premium Plus and the Prestige, and most of the things that you can get on the Prestige you can option into the Premium Plus. As for the rest of the interior, obviously it's been modernized, and what Audi's trying to do is reduce the number of buttons and knobs everywhere. But at the same time, they're adding a lot more technology, so there's a lot to learn when driving this car. There's buttons everywhere. One of my favorites is actually down here at the seat. There's a little up and down switch which shows on the display. It's like a mode switch on the seat where you can change the bolsters, you can change the lumbar support, and you can change, which is standard on this car, super nice, the massaging back. And so if I press the button now, so if I go up, it goes on to wave, stretch, need. Love a massaging seat. Don't see that in sports cars very often. On the dash, it's currently in the special sport mode. Normally on an A4 you'll see the tach on one side and the speedometer on the other. In the S cars, I believe this is an option that you can have the tachometer right in the middle with the speed in the middle, meant to present a more sporty mode with it being centered like that. In the center we've got the multifunction display, which, you know, most of us don't like. It looks a little out of place, although this one's not as bad. It's a little wider screen, so it's not as obnoxious, and it's controlled by the menu button down here, which is now fewer buttons than the previous MMI interfaces, and a lot of buttons are just touch buttons where you don't have to press on the switch, you just have to touch it to see what it does, and that carries on with these buttons along here for the AC as well. You just touch them and it shows you all the little options, which is pretty cool. Around the rest of the interior, This car's got the carbon fiber package. There's also the brushed aluminium package, which is nice. It's a little lighter, so it brightens the inside up. What I'd say about the interior is, as nice as it is, it's a little busy still. Take, for example, the door. There's just soft rubber at the top, and then there's the carbon fiber, and then there's the Alcantara, and then there's the grey leather. There's so many materials that it looks a little busy. Speaking of the leather, this is an area that Audi does a great job. Much nicer leather than in the BMWs, and about the same as in the Mercedes-Benz. It's called the Napa leather. And if you get the cross-stitched Napa leather like in this car, you can't get the vented seats, however. And then there's the steering wheel, which has got quite a complex layout of buttons to navigate all the features in this car. And it's also a flat bottom steering wheel. Interestingly, if you get the heated steering wheel, it's a round steering wheel. So depending on your taste, you might want to get the heated steering wheel because, I don't know, the flat bottom steering wheel fad is sort of over, I think. And finally in the center, you've got the nice gear lever for the ZF torque converter automatic, which interestingly, when you pull it down into sport mode, which is the manual mode, you immediately hear it go into dynamic mode. You hear the engine noise change, it chops down a gear, and it's ready to go. Onto the outside. You know, there's not a lot to signify that this is a special model, which I kind of like. I like that Audi are a little bit more under the radar with their sportier models. The big clues are, of course, the quad tailpipes, the S badging, the silver mirrors, and a little bit of trim here and there just to show that it's a special model. But otherwise, for most people, they would think that this is just an A4. This particular car has the sport package as well, 2,500 I believe, which gives you the red calipers on the brakes, the active dampeners, and the fancier differential as well. So, what are my conclusions on Audi's little undercover sports saloon? You know, I love this new generation. It is completely different in so many ways than the previous generation, but it is a sweetheart to drive. It is so smooth. I like the undercover looks on the outside. I like what they've done with the inside. It's a little complex here and there and takes a little while to learn everything. The cup holders may not be in the best spot, and some of this may be a bit confusing, but overall, you know, the new LED dash is pretty cool. You know, the layout is sweet. But most of all, this is a fast car. You know, sub 5 seconds 0 to 60. Some people are getting in the low 4s 0 to 60. So this is fast. And there's the issue with this car that I have, is that while it is incredibly fast for what it is, it doesn't feel fast. It's the strangest thing. And I think that's a combination of things. A combination of the new engine being turbocharged and pretty quiet. You never really put your foot down. You never really hear a lot of engine noise and you know, drama coming from the engine bay. And it takes a little while to get up and go. And I guess the torque delivery is quite linear, so you're never really pushed back into your seat. It's just a constant shove. And then there's the gearbox. Obviously the gearbox is a big reason why this car, while it's still very fast, doesn't feel as fast. You know, with a manual transmission or with the dual clutch, you feel the bangs of the gear change. This just smoothly glides through the gear changes. So where you're picking up speed and it's changing gears, it's just through the gears. It's super smooth through the gears. You never really feel like you're getting pushed along, banged along between gear changes. So I guess that's really comes down to your personal preference. Do you want your Audi S4 to sound fast and be fast, or do you want to be super cruising on the highway, but here in the cabin, be nice and relaxed? I don't know. I think I'd prefer a little bit more drama. And my final thought is to consider the brother of this car, the S5. The S5, of course, is the coupe. It's still got 4 doors. Interestingly, the S5 has no other options. It's a slight bit heavier, but I believe it's spec'd exactly the same, but it is $5,000 more. Is $5,000 worth it to have the coupe model? Personally, I'd probably pay the $5,000. I love the shape of the S5. But for a lot of people, $5,000 when all you're getting is a slightly different shape is not worth it. But something to consider. You know, the S5, I think, is just a gorgeous shape. Anyway, we're at the end of our journey. William and I thank you for watching my channel as always, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye then.